Hello, this message is going to be in Spanish. Muy buenas noches. De parte de los anfitriones le queremos dar la más cordial bienvenida a todos. Si desean escuchar esta reunión en español, por favor marquen al número 347-966-4114 e ingresen el código 147-086-654 y el símbolo numeral. Les voy a repetir nuevamente, si desean escuchar esta reunión en español, por favor, marquen al número 347-966-4114 e ingresen al código 147-086-654 y el símbolo numeral. Les pedimos que por favor mantengan sus micrófonos apagados durante la reunión. Vamos a poner esta información en el chat durante la misma. Muchas gracias. Elisan.
Thank you. The Mandarin line, please.
Sure. The following announcement will be in Chinese. 各位大家晚上好啊！如果需要中文翻译的话，请拨打电话347-966-4114，347-966-4114。房间的 ID 号码是103-778-366，井号键103-778-366，井号键。麻烦进入到电话会议的时候的话，把你的麦克风两边的麦克风都调成静音，以免打扰其他人。谢谢。That's it.
Thank you so much. Can we have our timekeeper, Ms. Joanne Jones? Are you here? Joanne, are you there?
Yes, Amy, I'm so sorry. My mute button was acting up. Good evening, everyone. I'll be the timekeeper for this evening. I will try to just do a chime once your time is up. So you'll hear like a bell or a chime. It's just to either wind down or to just start closing up your session.
Thank you so much. So tonight we are going to keep some housekeeping rules for this meeting. Please keep yourself muted when not speaking. Please do not interrupt or overspeak anyone while they are speaking. As adults in this space, please respect one another, even if you may not agree with them or their subject that is being spoken. Anyone who cannot follow these guidelines, please excuse yourself or we will have to remove you from Zoom. So I just wanted to, I apologize, give me a second. Apologize, I have kids in the background. Good evening, thank you for joining us today and tonight for the CCD 75 Committee on Busing meeting with the Office of People Transportation, OPT. My name is Amy Tsai, and I am the chair of the busing committee and the council member for the Citywide Council for District 75. I will be your moderator for this virtual meeting. If you need closed caption on the meeting, once the meeting starts, please click on the CC button at the bottom of the screen. I will now provide details on how tonight's meeting will work. The members of the committee reached out to parents and the larger community with a survey that will be shared out and obtained feedback and a list of questions from them they would like to be asked tonight. I will call upon the co-facilitators who will read each of their topic questions submitted by parents. Now that I have shared how the meeting will work, I will now turn it over to our co-president of the Citywide Council for District 75, Mr. Shamel Lawrence. Our other co-president, Craig Spencer, will unfortunately be unavailable to be attendance this evening. So we will turn it over to Mr. Shamel Lawrence, co-president.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for taking out your time. I'm currently serving as the co-president for District 75 Citywide Council. As you heard, my right hand is out. Please keep him in prayer. He will be returning with us shortly. He sends his greeting. Thank you, Amy and the committee, and I'm here to support you any way that we could. Welcome, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your participation this evening. I will turn it over to our colleague and member of the busing committee, Angel Morales, to give a little bit of the description for the committee.
Thank you, Amy. Good evening, members of the committee, comprised of council members, presidents, and advocates. The purpose of the Committee on Busing is to provide district-wide advisory oversight of students using all modes of transportation provided by NYC Department of Education, other than the transportation provided in a parent or caregiver's private vehicle, or any other transportation a parent or caregiver may take to transport their child to and from school and any other programs. The committee is also charged with advisory oversight of student safety in and around school bus vehicles. We advocate for parents, caregivers, as well as school personnel when student busing and busing safety are concerned. We disseminate information relating to these issues, recommended changes to chancellor rules and regulations, and when necessary, recommend legislative changes to the New York State statutes. So it is my pleasure right now to introduce, from the Office of Pupil Transportation, Glenn Risbrook, Senior Executive Director. Glenn, would you like to say a few words before we begin with our questions?
Yeah, sure. Before I say a few words, I just want to introduce who's here on the call for my office. Once again, my name is Glenn Risbrook. I'm the Senior Executive Director of Student Transportation for the Department of Education. Along with me, it will be John Benson. He is the Director of Ridership Support, as well as Ann Schwenker, who is the Interim Acting Senior Director of Access and Eligibility and Data, and Jody Sammons Chen, who is the Chief of Staff for School Support. So first I want to say I'd like to thank the Citywide Council for inviting us, for D75, for inviting us to discuss student transportation concerns and issues. I'm looking forward to having a very productive discussion and partnering with you as we strive to provide the best and safest transportation in the country. My team and I stand ready to work with anyone that mission is the same. As you may know, we provide yellow bus transportation to between 130 to 150,000 students yearly, as well as 600,000 plus Metro cards to our students and families. We also have over 8,000 bus routes on the road on any particular day. We have made strides in transportation, all the while dealing with a 2.5-year pandemic and counting. We stood up transportation for the first time in the 2.5 years this fall, and that was not an easy task, let me say that. As we go through this meeting, we'll discuss some of those strides. So with that, I'd like to turn it back. Thank you.
Thank you, Glenn, appreciate that. Right now, I also would like to introduce my pleasures, as always, the District 75 Superintendent, Kettler Lassant. Mr. Kettler, do you have any words for everyone this evening before we begin?
Absolutely. Thank you, Angel, and good evening, everyone. And good evening, Amy. And I just want to take a quick minute to really recognize the council and the transportation committee's effort. I think tonight we will have a very good meeting. I want to say thank you to OPT as well for joining us and all the members of the council that are here. I think busing is District 75 is it's a very important component of the work we do every day. No matter what we do, no matter how prepared we are in our schools, we need our children there on time and safe to avail themselves of the education we have in place for them. I want to say that we have been partnering and collaborating a great deal with OPT, and I do want to compliment them on the improvement they have made. I know there is much to be done everywhere, but they have been trying their best, working with the district, with my team that is here, Sasha, Andrea, Jackie, and Maria, everybody on the 8th floor, and now to transportation liaison. We know that we will continue to partner with them because we want to make sure our student can be transported in a safe manner, and they can reach our schools on time. And so I am pleased that we are all here tonight just to make sure we can answer some of our parent questions. They are entitled to answers, and that's why I'm happy that OPT has consented to this meeting, and I'm looking forward, as Mr. Riesbrook just said, to a very productive meeting. So thank you again.
Thank you for that. Next, I'd like to introduce my fellow council member, Christy Angel, who is continuously always doing amazing work. Thank you, Christy. She'll be speaking more on the committee.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. This evening, we will be having a dialogue on various busing topics that parents have brought to our attention to address with OPT. These are the areas we surveyed with our community. Experiences with OPT, experience with current bus companies, need of alternate transportation.
I pause you for a second. I'm sorry, Christy.
Yes.
Do you have the slides that are available to share screen?
Yes, I do. One moment. All right, so we'll jump into our survey results. So the CCD 75 Busing Committee recently distributed a busing survey to gain insight on parents' experiences with OPT during the 2022-2023 school year. Our samples include 123 surveyed parents. Parents were engaged via email and online communities such as Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. In general, our survey focused on broad issues regarding lateness relationships with OPT and services. The feedback received helped create questions and recommendations presented tonight. Objectives. The first objective was to receive firsthand knowledge of parent experiences in busing. The second objective, to determine parent feelings and communication regarding services with the Office of Pupil Transportation. The third objective, to obtain recommendations for effective change in services provided by the Office of Pupil Transportation. Survey results. We will now go into the actual results and data into the presentation and analysis. Our first question was, rate your current experience with the Office of Pupil Transportation, 1 being the lowest score, 5 being the highest. I see there's some drawing on the board there. One moment. I'm not able to manage that. I excuse the markings on the wall. The results are, excuse me. One moment. Okay, so our first question was, rate your current experience of the Office of Pupil Transportation, 1 being the lowest score, 5 being the highest. Out of 123 parents surveyed, 40 rated their experience with OPT at a scale of 1, being the lowest score. Our second question, how satisfied are you with your current bus company on a scale of 1 to 5, 1 being not satisfied at all, and 5 being very satisfied? Out of 123 parents surveyed, 36 rate their experience with the current bus company at a scale of 1, being the lowest score. That is a percentage of 29.3. Our next question, have you needed to use alternative methods to bring your child to school due to busing being unavailable? Our results, out of 123 parents surveyed, 56.9% have used alternative methods to bring their child to school due to busing being unavailable, with an additional 6.5% being affected by busing being unavailable, creating student absence, or alternative method usage. A total of 63.4% of parents were affected. Parents were affected by loss of time on their jobs, loss of pay on their jobs. Some of their children had to miss schools in order to watch younger siblings. There were also issues with matrons lacking skills, double routes, and extreme lateness. Our next question, has your child missed school due to the bus para absence or lack of? Out of 121 parents surveyed, 27.3% say their student has missed school due to the lack of a para. The additional percentage had absences by the driver, lack of permanent driver, bus unavailable, and the bus was a no-show. Our next question. Has your child been absent from school due to the lack of bus pickup or no bus service at all at any time of the school year? Our survey findings, out of 119 parents surveyed, 37.8% stated their children missed school due to the lack of bus service or no bus service anytime in the school year. 6% additionally were due to lateness. Our next question. Has your child missed participating in recovery services due to no bus service? Out of 123 parents surveyed, 24.4% have missed services due to no bus service available. Our next question. Has your child missed out on after-school programming due to no busing? Our findings. Out of 123 parents, 26.8% state their child has missed after-school programming due to no busing. Our next question. How often is your child late for school? Out of 121 parents surveyed, 11.6% stated that their child is always late for school, while 47.9% state their child is sometimes late. Analysis of results. Our parents are having issues with the lack of busing, lack of bus drivers, matrons, or lack of route. Second analysis. Parents are feeling frustrated by services and those who must use alternative methods of transportation, and they're having difficulty being reimbursed or are not being reimbursed at all. These issues create burdens on families and create trust issues due to lackluster communication, lack of communication, and transparency. The relationship with OPT and parents, third analysis. The relationship with OPT and parents need to be adjusted in a manner where parents feel supported, heard, and safe with the transportation of their child. In conclusion, in reviewing the survey, it is imperative that more open communication and ways of communication be implemented on all sides as it pertains to parents, from OPT to 311 complaints to busing companies that are not doing their due diligence. If parents can't be heard, their issues cannot be resolved. Please take a moment now to hear the voices of those surveyed parents through our communities in this session. I do want to go over one more slide with you guys that we did end up skipping here. In the introduction, I'll stop the share. In our introduction with our survey, we did survey 123 parents. That did go out via email. It went out via parent groups, via Instagram, via Twitter. And we basically surveyed that as a sample of our District 75 parents so that we would be able to share that with you all today. So I now will turn the floor back over to our chairperson, Amy Tsai, so that she can delegate our questions that we have received from the parents. This will be verbatim from our survey. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Christy Angel and Angel Morales, for starting this meeting. I am going to welcome Shona Gibson, who is our BCO director. Apologize if I made a mistake on your title, Shona. I'd like to let you take a few minutes if you have anything to say in this space. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Amy, and thank you so much, council and parents, for including me here today. I'm very happy to be here and listen to. I'm sorry about the issues. I want to hear more about them, as I know my colleagues from District 75 and the Office of Pupil Transportation do as well. And I just say I'm here to listen and learn, and happy to see all of you tonight.
Thank you so much. Again, we had surveyed the feedback and the questions from our community. And that doesn't just include District 75, it's all students and families that receive this service from the Department of Education, Student Transportation Department of the OPT. Again, all these questions came from the community of parents. So I will be moderating through these topic sections, apologize. We are going to start off with our co-facilitator, Aisha Husbands, on after school recovery services and summer chapter 683 programs.
Time starts now.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm going to read the first question. Recovery services were not accessible to many students this past year solely because after-school busing was not provided. These students, our children, were denied services that the DOE put in place to help aid them in reaching their IEP goals. Because of this barrier, an equitable distribution of services were not afforded to all students. I propose that funds that were allocated yet not used this past school year for these services be added to next year's budget. Will OTP commit to work with bus companies to prioritize schools, students, and communities that have a history of being marginalized?
Glenn and Kettler, you have the opportunity to answer Ms. Aisha Husband's question of the night.
Well, let me answer the end of the last part of that question. Yes, we do work with the bus companies and we do identify areas where there needs to be improvement. We do highlight areas where there's been habitual service issues, and we come up with ways that we can assist them in providing better service outcomes. As far as the recovery services, I'm gonna turn this over to my partner, Jody Salmon Chen, that can speak to that issue. I don't know if she's muted. Well, what I can say about that real quick is that as far as the recovery services is concerned, of course, everyone knows that there was a driver shortage, and the DOE and the City of New York were working through ways to try to stand up that service for after school. We are continuing to do that. And once the City of New York and the DOE comes up with a plan to try to go through those hurdles, of the contractual issues that we were having to try to stand up that transportation, and also what we need to do as far as the driver shortages, we will let everyone know. But that is continuing to be an issue that we're dealing with. So as soon as the city is continuing to work on different ways so that we can stand up that service. But yes, there is a hurdle with the contract with the bus companies, as well as the driver shortage that is a nationwide issue. So we do recognize that, and that the bus services were not provided, but those are the reasons, and we are working diligently. The city of New York is working diligently through these contracts to come up with ways to try to get over those hurdles.
Cutler, do you have?
I think I echo what Mr. Riesberg just said. It is not for lack of effort or lack of trying on the part of the department. The intention was to provide busing, and that's what we have been having some regular meetings around, conversation, even with OPT, but as he clearly indicated, there was a shortage, and we have been going through a pandemic, and there was a variety of issues that prevented the service to take place. I don't think anyone had planned for it to be this way, but because of an avalanche of circumstances, that's the position we have found ourselves in. But yet, I have to say, our schools have been really doing the best they can to collaborate with families to make sure whatever they could do, they are currently doing to ensure as many students as possible could take advantage of the SERS programming.
Thank you so much. Jody is having some difficulties with the microphone. I'm not sure if you're able to unmute her, Mr. Lawrence. Jody, are you able to unmute yourself? I think she's having some difficulties. Mr. Lawrence, are you able to unmute Jody?
Perhaps we can continue them, we can come back to her.
Sure, that's fine.
Yeah.
Can you just maybe message her? Maybe she just need to jump out and jump back in and see that's the issue. But I appreciate it, Glenn.
Yeah, I'll reach out to her. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can you hear me now or no?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Oh, okay, great. Yeah, sorry. This was on my end. It wasn't an issue with the Zoom. Sorry about that. So I missed the question. My apologies, Amy.
Sure. So we just wanted to know, because we had some complication in regards to giving bus services for the recovery services and after schools this current school year. And it's really important how, the populations that we serve need this service to be, an ongoing coming back to be provided. Is there enough money in the budget to allocate for the commitment of having bus service for the continuation of SARS between now and June, and also Chapter 683 and the Summer Rising program for the summer, to get us back to some kind of normalcy so that all of our children have the opportunity to have these programs available for them?
Right. So what I was trying to say before, and I apologize that I was having technical difficulties, but the DOE is pulling together the plans for the summer as well as for the fall to see what the service delivery models are that can be offered. There have been, obviously, as Glenn noted, some issues around staffing levels. There has been a driver shortage that we've been experiencing since the beginning of the pandemic, but most egregiously over the past 6 months or so. We continue to work with companies to make sure that they're staffing up as much as they can. But we are trying to make sure that we are adhering to the contracts and the laws that we are legally obligated to. So as Glenn mentioned, contractually, we don't have an avenue for a lot of different things. And so we are trying to work with our partners to see what's possible. I know that this has been something that we've said all along, but with the new administration, we're trying in a renewed way to see what can be offered. The DOE does plan to release some information about summer and for the fall in the coming weeks, and about just generally what summer and SERS is going to look like next year. And so we'll look forward to sharing some more information then.
Thank you so much, Jody. We are going to move on to our next co-facilitator, Joanne Jones, who will touch on COVID, safety, and health.
Yes, good evening, everyone. So this is a two-part question. So first, as buses are available for field trips now and more classes will be going on trips, traveling on their destination, the question is, how many times will bus companies be required to clean, wipe, and sanitize the interior of their vehicles from seats to windows while we're still in COVID? The second part is many of the elementary students are on large yellow buses and many of our young children are on buses with bigger kids. Question, why are the younger kids not on minivans and riding the bus separate from the older kids?
All right, let me answer that last part of the question first. And then I'll turn it over to John Benson, who is the Director of Ridership Support, to talk more about the COVID safety and health guidelines. We do all possible to keep kids, students with their contemporaries when we route. But logistic concerns, session times with schools, the location of schools, sometimes make that difficult. And then we, in order to get kids to school on time, sometimes they have to ride with kids that are not in their contemporary, sometimes older kids, sometimes younger students. But when this is identified to us by schools, or when it turns out that there's an issue that's identified to us, then we do what we can to try to reroute to keep kids with their contemporaries. But moreover, the routing, the way it's done, is to make sure that logistically students are picked up at a certain time and arrive to school on time. The contemporary structure is something that we consider, but we cannot achieve in all cases. And as far as the size of the buses, that wouldn't have anything to do pretty much with the age of the children. We have older students on mini wagons and we have older students on larger buses and vice versa. It depends on what the need of the particular student is. So again, we do what we can to keep the contemporaries together. But when it's impossible or when it's difficult, we monitor it as the school year goes on and make adjustments when we can. And John, you can chime in on COVID and safety.
Yep. Good evening, everybody. John Benson, Director of Ridership Support. I see some familiar names. Good to see you all and have this opportunity to meet and talk these things through. So in terms of the COVID protocols, in terms of cleaning, that's going to continue daily. Electrostatic sprayers, daily cleaning of the buses, deep cleans, especially with a focus on the high touch surfaces. In addition to that, the policy will continue to be windows open, weather permitting. The weather's open creates a cross ventilation from front to back. That there's some science behind that in terms of reducing virus transmission by creating that airflow. In addition to that, we're in regular touch with public health authorities, specifically DOH, MH, about these restrictions. We've been working with them since fall 2020 when we opened up with 25% capacity on buses. We moved towards the end of last year towards 50%, then 100%, but with the masks required and the windows open to start this year. And we're going to continue working closely with them to ensure we're doing this as safely as possible for all kids that are riding our buses.
Thank you so much. I'm not sure if Keller, you want to fill in for this spot. I don't know if it's a strict issue, but
No, I think OPT covered it well.
thank you. So now we're gonna go to our next co-facilitator. Again, it is our wonderful Christy Angel, touching on the communication and 311 and OPT complaints.
Amy, can I insert myself for a second? You have a parent on the Spanish line that has a question. Can we just inquire with the lines to see if there are any questions, please?
Yes, please.
I'm going to ask the Spanish line. ¿Hay alguien en la línea de español que tenga alguna pregunta que quiera hacer? Muy buenas tardes. ¿Alguien en la línea de español que tenga alguna pregunta que quiera hacer? I don't hear anything.
So, para la señora Ana Sánchez, sí estoy viendo que usted está escribiendo en el chat. Necesitamos, por favor, que usted se comunique con el señor Alejandro por vía de la línea de traducción para que él entonces pueda aquí en la línea de Zoom hacer la traducción de lo que usted está diciendo. ¿Ok? Avíseme en el chat, por favor, si usted está conectada por esa línea para poderle coger su pregunta o su inquietud. Amy, I'm sorry, she's writing in the chat and I just wanted to make sure that she understood that she had to go through the Spanish line.
I'm sorry, Miss Lynn. This is Marina. I'm the other interpreter. She just wrote that she's having trouble dialing into the, or with the communication.
Hello, this is Katia from Linguistica. Actually, I already make a few tests. And everybody who's trying to access right now to the Spanish line, they cannot hear the interpreters. I don't know what is going on with the Spanish line. That's why nobody is listening there.
So give me a second, Katia. I'm going to check the line now.
I actually had the same problem myself.
I'm sorry, Amy.
No problem.
Vamos a esperar un segundito. Estamos tratando de hacer
Appreciate everyone's patience. Just wanted to make sure that everyone's able to participate, including our parents who are Spanish speaking and our Mandarin parents as well. Thank you.
Alejandra, I see everyone on. Can you ask someone to speak back to you? Please.
¿Hay alguien en la línea de español que pueda tratar de comunicarse con nosotros? A ver si queremos saber si nos están escuchando, por favor. ¿Hay alguien que pueda abrir su micrófono y me pueda hablar para ver si los podemos? Sí. Ok. I'm listening. There is one person who says it's okay. ¿Hay alguien más en la línea?
Por favor, ¿cómo puedo hacer para...
I think everything's working perfectly fine now. Si pueden, por favor, comunicarse por la línea de español con su pregunta para que esta reunión pueda continuar. Amy, back to you.
Thank you so much. And Lynn, can you please just make sure that if there's anything support on those language lines? Thank you.
Yep, I'm here.
Just a quick time check. We have about 45 minutes in this section.
Thank you so much, Joanne. And again, this meeting is recorded. So if you want the recording afterwards, you can send an email to the council and we can share that recording with you for a later time to view. Thank you so much. So we're gonna go back and continue for our co-facilitator, Christy Angel, to touch on communication and 311 OPT complaints.
Thank you. My first question is, with a city that is so diverse in language, yet there are no customer service representatives that speak the various languages or dialects that families need to address concerns and complaints. How can we improve language justice in your office?
I will take that one. Thank you for the question. So similarly to how we have interpreters on this phone call here, we use the same Linguistica service within our call center to make sure we're able to answer questions and communicate with parents in the languages required by the Department of Education. So what we do is on par with everything you see across the entire DOE.
Our second question. During every school year, summer, and any changes of bus route or company, parents are told to check their NICSA accounts to check on the information or contact their schools to get the information. This is not efficient enough for parents to get real-time pickup or drop-off information. Why is your office no longer going back to the yellow envelopes mailed home to families as an alternate or an additional mode of communication?
Yep, I will take that one as well. So when we did mail out route letters in the past, we had address data that was not accurate in many cases. So we would send a significant amount of taxpayer money to send out these letters, and more than 50% would come back as undeliverable. So we did not want to continue wasting money, kind of just pouring the people's money down the drain. So we moved towards the model that we have now, where if you have NICSA, it's in real time there. It's going to be fully up to date on a daily basis. Or if you can't have NICSA, you don't have technology, you don't know how to use it, you struggle, you can simply just call your transportation coordinator at the school and they can give it to you over the phone.
Thank you so much, John. We will go to our next facilitator, our White King Wong, who will be discussing his questions on bus routes. Mr. Wong, are you there?
Hi. Actually, it'll be me and my wife, Adeline. And actually, she probably remembers the questions a bit more.
Yeah, so we're just wondering, like, how are the bus routes created? Are these done manually? Like, what level of expertise in the OPT is creating the bus routes? Because we've noticed that they're suboptimal until you bark loud enough, and then suddenly they become pretty efficient. So it looks like nobody is actually reviewing the routes that go out and like empathizing with the students who have to sit on those routes. They're just creating something, and if there's a complaint that comes in after the fact, they deal with it, but there's no preventative measure to actually sanity check and make sure that the route makes any sense at all.
All right, I'll take that one. Yes, there is a review of the bus routes, but the routers are logistically trained and throughout all the cities, the city roadways and nuances that get around the city, each borough is different. What winds up happening sometimes is as students will have IEP mandates change mid-year, sometimes right after routes are initially created. And then what happens is that we have to accommodate those changes. Some of it has to do with limited time. Some of it has to do with other mandates. When that happens, some of the routes become disjointed. Yes, we try to be as proactive as possible, but at times we react to issues that are brought to us by our families, and then we will fix the route. But quite a number of times it has to do with circumstances that have changed after the route has been created. And once we are alerted, either through proactive measures or a school or family will let us know, we change that and we make adjustments as quickly as possible. So you will see sometimes where a route temporarily would be what you would consider disjointed, but we do react and make changes as quickly as we can. But what I would say is if anyone here that if there's any situations that you know about that haven't been addressed, you can please reach out to us and we take care of those things as quickly as possible.
So we have a follow-up.
Yeah, I guess like because one other thing is like if we know the route will take a really long time and decide not to put our kid on the bus, then OPT doesn't care because they'll say, oh, your kid never rode the bus, when, you know, they give a schedule that maybe violates IAP anyway. So that's the part, like, where you call customer service and you complain and you say, well, if my kid had actually taken the bus, it would have violated the IAP, and we have data to prove that. But because he maybe didn't actually sit on the bus for the entire time, they'll say, oh, but he didn't actually suffer, so therefore we don't care. And that's the thing, that's what I'm saying about preventative measures versus like just dealing with it after the fact. Like OPT doesn't seem to care about like
it's you know, I know this is for the whole city at scale. Like, how do you operationally know that your routes are working for parents, that they haven't just dropped off because it isn't working? And that's why you're getting the ones, right? Because the routes aren't working, they want their kids at school, they have work, where people just want to make it happen, right?
And you'll have parents who don't have the means like we do to GPS track our kid, to intercept the bus in the middle of a route because we know it's taking too long. That, like, these are things that you know, you don't provide the information to parents. We have to basically pay for the information, but without being, you know, highly tech savvy, right? Like most parents might not be. They're kind of blind to what's going on.
In terms of the information that is provided at the NICSA is we do log in, and
there's no pickup time, there's no drop off time in
the
the account.
The minimum amount of information that is communicated that can be actually of use for a parent, along for everyone, is not really there.
And bus route changes are never communicated. We found out only through GPS. So, you know, it's we can't even call a dispatcher and get correct information.
Hi. Thank you so much. Yes,
Yeah,
can you just answer their question, please?
I don't think that we're clear on what the question is because there was a lot of back and forth. If we could just have someone just ask the question again so that Glenn can respond.
Yeah, so there's no communication. Like you say, okay, log into the NYC student account, right? But there's no pickup time there. There's no drop off time there. Any changes to the route, it's not communicated through there. So it's kind of a useless, all it tells us is the bus route number. It doesn't tell us anything else. So I don't, like, why can't OPT better communicate to the parents?
Everyone that's on the route, if there's a change, there's no communication. Is there any project or system that is in the works to provide that rich information? And then not rich, I say basic, important route information individually per parent to a dynamically changing world that you have. These systems are implemented commercially. And the reason we're bringing this up is we're wondering, is this being implemented?
Yeah, because it's not modern technology.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Wong and Mr. Wong. I think, Glenn, are you able to answer their question? Glenn, you're muted.
Yeah, John, I know you can jump in and then I'll chime in after. Sorry about that.
Right. So I want to make sure I'm understanding the question correctly. So we're saying what is in NICSA essentially doesn't have the pickup time. And is that the issue we're talking about? I just want to make sure I'm capturing this completely.
Pickup time or drop off time, and will not tell you if anything changes to the route.
So the standard model dating back years, even when those letters were going out, is for the bus company to provide the pickup time and drop off time based on the dry runs that are done prior to the route's beginning. So they run the dry runs, they figure out when they're getting to each stop, and then they communicate that information to parents. What's going to be in NICSA is the route number and the bus company and the contact information for the bus company, broken down by day if there's different routes by day. That's what's going to be in there. In terms of enhancing with pickup time included, I think that's a long-term goal of ours. So what we need to do is kind of bridge between what's being provided by the bus companies directly to parents and have that feed in. That is something under consideration, and as we progress and figure that out a little bit more, we will be in touch and let you know how that goes.
Okay.
And I just want to address earlier about the caring of OPT. Yes, we do we're all parents as well. So when we are advised about a bus route that is not working as it's intended, we do address those as soon as we get that information. I don't think any of our customer service agents are saying that they don't care. But if there's any instance when you feel that the customer service that you're receiving is not appropriate, please pass that along to us and we will take immediate action. But we do care, and I'm not quite sure why the sentiment is that our customer service agents are expressing something different than that.
I think it's
Right.
because we don't have any power to do anything. So
Yes,
also,
We opened many cases.
Can we're tight on time, Mr. Wong and Ms. Wong, apologize. Shona, do you have something you would like to jump in?
Yeah, I'll keep this very short, and I'm sorry, I should have mentioned this at the beginning. One of the things that I'm really delighted to share with everybody is that as of this week, District 75 has been able to bring on 2 transportation liaisons who are going to work with the District 75 community and with the Office of Pupil Transportation. So while they're not the cure for everything, that was a need that we saw and anticipated, and we're very happy to be able to onboard these folks, and hopefully that will help to alleviate some of these issues by having someone who is able to liaise between the Office of Pupil Transportation and District 75 parents. So it's not necessarily directly responsive, but I just wanted to make sure that we are working very closely with OPT to help provide wraparound service around this. Around transportation.
Yeah. If I could add one more thing about the call center and the comment about not caring. I heard someone say that they were told on the phone, this child didn't suffer, so we don't care, as a product of the student not riding because the route is too long. If someone uttered those words to a parent over the phone, I want to make it very clear, give me if you have the name or if you have the phone number that you called from, I will trace that. That person's coming off the phones tomorrow. I mean that seriously. We do care. If someone's communicating that type of message to a parent, that's not okay, and we will address it. That person's not going to be on the phones anymore.
Amy?
Yes, thank you so much. I just wanted to, do we have any questions in the Spanish or the Mandarin line? Interpreter?
So you have a couple of questions. You have a Lydia with her hand up, and Alejandra, can you ask in the Spanish line for questions, please?
Yes. We do have questions. Okay, deme un segundito, madre. Un segundo, por favor. Okay, let me just mute my phone so I can do it simultaneously. Okay, adelante. Adelante, pregunte, por favor. My son has a week, 5 days, and 3 days that he doesn't go to school because the driver stopped working, and I want to know when my child is gonna go back to school, because they're telling me that I can take him to school, but I cannot take him to school because I work, and that's why he has the bus, and it interferes with the school time and the school time interferes with my work time.
Thank you. I think this is kind of an individual case. Glenn, do you want to take this offline or?
Yes, I was going to provide a contact in the chat, and if anyone wants to give me any information that my office could look into, we certainly will.
Thank you. And if the district office can follow up as well, appreciate it. Was there another question from the interpretation lines?
¿Hay alguien más en la línea de español que tenga alguna otra pregunta?
Sí, yo también tengo una pregunta.
Yes, we do have one more question. Okay, deme adelante con su pregunta.
Sí, buenas tardes.
Yes, good evening. Yes, what happens is that I have a week with my son. I don't have an exact time that they come to bring him or pick him up, They tell me one time and then they come another time. I've been late to work, and then I bring him to school and I pick him up because they pick him up late and then they drop him off late. And they told me this week, they told me they were going to try to fix the route. They've been coming by 8:10 in the evening, almost 5 p.m. And the school is not so far away. I spoke to the school and I told them if the bus has problems, to help me with the Metro card with the money, and I will take my child, but they don't help me. They don't help me. I don't know what to do.
Again, Glenn, do you want to take this offline and we can resolve this issue for both parents?
Absolutely. Again, I put my contact information in the chat so we could share that and we could address those issues as soon as I receive it.
Thank
I'm
you.
still waiting for my question. I've been having my hands up for a while.
Yes, I understand. And I was about to call you, Miss Lydia.
No problem. I understand. I just don't want the meeting to end without me.
No, I understand. And I am just gonna ask that I'm gonna have Maria be the last person because we have a type of other questions that parents have been put and gave us in advance. So we need to honor those questions that were given to us in advance. So it will be Lydia and Maria, and then we're gonna go back to our co-facilitators.
Just a quick time check. We have approximately 34 minutes left in this segment.
Mine is very short and simple.
Go ahead, Lydia.
I'm sorry, ladies. This is Marina, the Spanish interpreter. We have one more question on the Spanish line.
Okay. Can you just hold off until after Lydia, please?
Okay. Let me tell the lady. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. How's everyone doing? My concern as a parent, my son is nonverbal. My question is, has it been taken in consideration to put surveillance cameras on the buses for children that are nonverbal for their safety? My son was scratched in the back of the neck, and because he cannot tell me who scratched him and he's nonverbal, it unfortunately, sad to say, it stood in the air. I did call pupil transportation. I made complaints, but it didn't went as far as that. It just went as far as a complaint, and that was it.
Yeah, we have a department that handles student incidents that way, and if that is a message to us, we would follow up with the school and mediation would happen. But as far as the cameras on the bus, that violates the PII, which is a personal identification information about other children that are on the bus, and we're not allowed to share that information without the consent of parents that of the children that are on the bus. So that is the reason why we do not have cameras inside the bus.
So can anything be done with kids? Like in my situation, my son is nonverbal, and his safety it's a big concern for me.
Yeah, I can jump in on this one. So the incident management team we have is directly related to student safety on our buses. So I know you said you had you called this and you got a complaint number. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. I'm going to put my email in this chat as well, if you can. And if you could pull my email out of the chat, if you could just email me directly that number, I'll find out what happened there. But the basic process is if we get a report like that, student safety is our top priority. We jump on these things. We follow up with the school and the bus company to figure out what happened, gather information, and identify next steps from there. Once I have that number, I can try and dig a little bit deeper to find out what happened with that particular incident and what the outcome was. All right, so I'm going to put, if you have access to the chat, I'm going to put my email in there right now. Okay.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. We're going to go into the Spanish line for the last question for right now.
Ok, ahora sí puede hacer su pregunta. Hola, en la línea de español. Señora, la que tenía una pregunta. Estamos en la línea de español. La que tenía una pregunta recién, por favor, este es el momento para decirla.
Ok, sí. ¿Me escucha?
Sí, la escucho. Adelante.
¿Aló?
Sí, la escucho. Adelante.
Ok, sí, mi pregunta es,
My question
cuando
is,
me llaman de la escuela, que vengo a recoger al niño, que
when they call
el
me
niño
from
se
school
siente
to
mal,
pick
que el
up
niño está, que el niño yo
to
voy
pick
a
up my
veces,
son,
toca ir en el bus y yo le digo en la escuela
that
que
my
me
son
ayuden
is
con mi
feeling,
tocar
it's not
porque
feeling good, and they
no
call
puede
me
la
all
tarde traer
mostly all the
cosas
time
ellos, ¿cómo yo puedo hacer eso? O sea, yo a veces
when I'm working or I have to take a bus to pick him up. Is there any way that every time I have to go pick him up when my son cannot come in the evening on the bus, on the school bus, is there any way that I can receive help with that Metro card to go pick him up when he's sick?
Kettler?
Yes, I was just trying to unmute myself. I think that's a question our team can follow up with. We can absolutely make Metro card arrangement for you if that happens, and we will try our very best to assist you. Number one, we want to make sure, and that's something we will certainly follow up on, that you are not getting unnecessary calls to pick up your child belong in school. And we have advised our school always to only call a parent in a dire situation if the child has a medical need, and we will contact you. But this is not in our normal routine to be calling you unnecessarily or needlessly or regularly. And so we want to certainly follow up on that. So if you can give us your number, we will make sure one of us here will follow up with you, because we have many team members from District 75 here.
Go. Mr. Kettler, would you like me to pass her number through here, or how do you want to do this?
Yes, I can provide you with the district number. It's 212-802.
Okay.
Or it might be easier to take her number here.
Yeah, if you can you just direct message the interpreter? And then vice versa, if possible, to pass the message to the contact information. Appreciate it.
Okay, I will mute myself and I will let her know, okay?
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And the other, if there's other two parents out there too as well, if you can assist, thank you. We're going to, I see two hands, and I did mention that Maria had her hand up already, and I'll come back to Cree Charles a little later if we have time. Maria, do you have a question?
Yes.
Now you keep it short, please.
Hi, good evening. I would like to know, okay, my child used to be picked up at 6:30 every morning. Okay, for the last 2 weeks, there's been 5 days where I had to take my child. Okay, sometimes I work from home, sometimes I work in Wall Street. Okay, next week it's my turn to work in Wall Street. You know, how are you guys gonna adjust this bus thing that it shows up when, you know, like twice it showed up at 8:30 when she's supposed to be in school already. But they don't even call us to let us know, look, we're running late, or, you know, what's going on. You can't call the school because the school is like taking care of the people outside. So it's like you left in the, you know, in the cold where, you know, do I get on my car and take her to school? Do I wait? You know, I mean, at least if the matron will call us and let us know, look, we're running late, you know, give us a courtesy call at least, you know. It's like, you know, I don't know. Next week, I'm going to be going back to Wall Street, and I'm scared that my daughter won't have transportation. And we live in East New York, and she She go to school by Coney Island.
Well, I'm sorry to hear that. If you, my contact information is in the chat, please utilize that. Get the information to me, and we'll look into it and we'll resolve it as quickly as possible.
Thank you so much.
Sure.
Thank you. So we are going to continue on our next co-facilitator. I see you, Queen Charles. I will get to you in a little later. Co-facilitator Maggie, are you on? Please share on bus companies and staff.
Hi, good evening, everyone. I have two questions that are very short. What incentives are being offered to the transportation workforce to lessen the high rate of turnover? The next question is, what are the specific plans to address the driver, attendee, para, and nurse shortages on buses in terms of either recruitment or redeployment or rehiring, or what are those specific concrete plans in place currently and in the future or in the works?
All right, I'll take the on the bus drivers and attendants, and I'll and D75 partners, they can talk about the paras if they like. As far as the bus companies, the driver shortage and attendant shortage, we are working with the bus companies, and we're giving them, in other words, what we're doing is we're giving them an option to find drivers in areas that they would not normally be recruiting drivers. That's the NYPD, that's the FDNY, that's the sanitation, and all other agencies within the city of New York that drivers may feel like they might want to do something else and be a yellow bus driver. So we are giving them different solutions and suggestions, and we're working with them. The bus companies and bus drivers do not work for the city of New York. They're independent companies. So any of the incentives that they offer to the bus drivers and attendants are developed by the bus companies. We give them suggestions of how they can target it the best way that they can, but legally we cannot directly compensate the drivers in any way. The bus companies have to do that as they're the employees of those companies. But we do try to give them some guidance based on our experiences of where those incentives could be directed and where they can recruit. As far as the paras and everything else, if any partners are here from special education, they can respond to that. If not, we can have them respond a little bit later at another time to that question.
Sure, I can jump in here and say generally getting paras for buses is of extreme importance to us. We have a team that works on that very, very hard. We also have a team who I think, to speak to the root of the question, we have a team that works very closely with our Division of Human Resources and Human Capital to help build the pipeline of people who can become paras and then become people who can become paraprofessionals on buses. So if there's a specific thing, I'm happy to respond to that directly offline, and I'll put my email address in the chat. But we recognize the need for staff and are working very closely, but those are things that take some time and strategy, and hopefully we will see even more people sort of enter into our pipeline over the next few months.
It's been over a year since we started back into the buses, the regular timeline of buses, and either hybrid or just 5 days a week in person. So how much longer are you going, is OPT and the city going to need in order to implement these plans? And can we have an outline? Can we have the specific plans that you have in the works or that you're planning already? And if you don't have it, can there at least be, can you at least be upfront with the public about that?
Is this in relation to to the paras?
It's in relation to the plans to address all of the transportation staff shortages, including the paras. But just to because it's a very broad, the response, and we've gotten that over time. We just need the specifics and timeline because it's been over a year.
All right, again, about the bus drivers and attendants, I thought I provided some specificity to this about going to other agencies within the city of New York that have equally classed drivers that could drive school buses, the NYPD, FDNY, sanitation, and giving those options to the bus companies. And sitting down with them and giving them targeted ways that they can better utilize their incentives. Also, just to let you know, the governor as well has decided to, at one point during this, I would consider an emergency of driver shortages, to open up the possibility of having personnel from the state of New York also participate as being bus drivers. So it's all over the country. We're working diligently with the drivers and with the bus companies, and we're giving them targeted ways that they can do this. But as far as the paras are concerned, that's not OPT. I believe once again, that question could be answered by the Special Education Office and to let you know what the plans are directly there.
Okay, and then I think if I would be happy to share more concrete information over the next couple of weeks and be able to share how many paras we have and what we're looking for. I will say that as hard as we are working to onboard people, that is one of the challenges that we all have, is finding right, good and qualified people to take these positions. But Amy and your co-facilitator, if you're okay with that, I'll provide that information to this committee in the next couple of weeks. Is that all right?
Yeah, that's fine. We look forward to it.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Shona. And
Shona, let me just add that we are very diligent in finding special transportation paras. There is a whole protocol in place in District 75 whenever a student needs a para for the bus. Please know, as Glenn just said, legally we cannot force anybody to take an assignment that they don't want to take. But yet when a school does not have anybody available to take an assignment, we advertise it to neighboring school. And if we cannot find anybody, we will contact agencies. We will pay for the whole day just to have somebody riding the bus. But please know that this is something, as Shona said, we take very seriously. We want our children in school every day, and we do whatever we can do to ensure there is a para available to ride the bus with the child when the service is on the IEP.
thank you so much, Superintendent. I think that all we want is that we make sure all of our students are back to school this upcoming year, because we recognize that this year was a very hard year, that due to the furloughs that happened during the first year of the pandemic, we had lost a lot of the drivers and attendees and paraprofessionals for the bus. So we recognize that some of the students had to use limo service to come while they're trying to find the bus para for them. And some families chose to stay home because that was more convenient for them. So just wanted to express that. We're gonna move on to our co-facilitator, Celia Green, who will touch on the contracts and allocations.
Thank you and good evening, everyone. There are two questions that parents sent in around contracts and allocations. One is, there are concerns regarding the profit motivation of bus companies and how it impacts the welfare of students, especially for the special needs population. How will your office address this?
That's kind of outside the purview of OPT, that those contracts are negotiated with the city of New York. So I would refer to them with this. We really are not involved with the negotiation of contracts with the bus companies.
All right, the second question another parent had was, how have the recent approval of funds or contracts by the PEP, Panel for Educational Policy, being currently utilized in the rehiring and recruitment of new bus drivers and matrons?
Yeah, again, the bus companies and attendants, bus drivers and attendants work for bus companies. We don't allocate any funds directly to the bus companies to hire bus drivers and attendants.
Okay. I have a question in response to something that one of the other parents had asked, because I am also a D75 parent 4 times over. 2 of my oldest are nonverbal. So I was previously on this council back in, let's say 2013, 2015, around there. And the previous president, Ms. Gloria Cristino, and myself had advocated at that time with Ms. Robinson and others, Alexandra Robinson, who's used to run OPT, for a pilot program for cameras on the buses. And at that time, we were told eventually, because it took a couple of years, that there would be a pilot program with about 100 buses. Did that ever happen? And if so, what happened to that particular pilot program? And it was not, just to be assured, it was not to get information on other people's children or on students, but it was more about making sure that whatever happens on the bus could be recorded. It could be deleted right after, but be recorded in case a parent had a complaint or something like that. It protects both the driver and the matron as well as the child. But what did happen to that program, if it did?
Yeah, I'm unaware of that pilot program. That's something I can look into and get back to everyone about it. But again, having cameras on the bus is, whether it's intentional or not, it does violate personal identification. So that's really what I can say about that. But if I find out about that,
I'm asking about that because we had thought of that as well, and we were told that. But in New York State, there are several of the districts in New York State that do have the cameras on the bus. Now, I realize that they own their own bus companies, so it's a slightly different. New York City does not do that, but I think in the interest of safety, it should be a consideration. So if you can get back to us, it'd be greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Certainly.
Thank you, Ms. Green. We are going to go to our next co-facilitator, Andrea Daniels, for travel reimbursement.
Yes, hi, good evening, everyone. So I have 2 questions that parents submitted for travel reimbursement. The first one is, many parents are not in a position to pay for transportation in the manner that they have had to most recently. Parents have stated that reimbursement forms are problematic and that the reimbursement has been taking quite a bit of time. How can we improve the reimbursement process? That's the first question.
All right, well, first of all, I do recognize and agree that the reimbursement process has taken way too long. I began this role as a senior executive director of student transportation since early December. And that was one of the charges that I wanted to try to change. So what we did was we identified a staff of employees to look directly into working diligently to clear that backlog of disbursements of funds. It's manifested itself in a very positive way. The cadence on where funds are being distributed have increased. My expectation is that within a few months we should be have the backlog cleared. But I fully do understand the plight that families are finding themselves in when they expect yellow busing provided by the city, and because of the pandemic, driver shortages or array of all that's not available, and then they put in for reimbursement than has to wait. That is a focus of mine, is a priority, and that we have discussions on that every single day. And my expectation is that we will have that resolved within the next few months.
Okay, thank you. Here's question number 2.
Andrea, this
Currently-
is Sasha. I'm so sorry. This is Sasha from the superintendent's office. Can I just jump in and address the issue as it relates to transportation reimbursement?
Sure, Sasha, go ahead.
Glenn, I know that you guys have a backlog. We have been collecting and we've reached out to schools. Schools have been submitting parent reimbursements to our office, and we've been processing them as soon as we receive them. So if there are parents who still have transportation reimbursements, if the buses have been late or excessively late, no bus, no route, or without a transportation parent have been taking their students to and from school, parents can certainly submit those reimbursements to the superintendent's office. I will drop in the chat the individual, they can email with the completed reimbursements, and we will support you if the forms are not completed correctly, and we will reach out to you as soon as we receive your information. So I'm going to put that information in the chat. Thank you.
Thank you, Sasha. Andrea, you can move on to your second question.
All right, question number 2. Currently, at schools that are providing the special recovery services program in the afternoon after school, but still do not have bus and services, and the parent is willing to pick up the child after the program ends, will the district or OPT reimburse any cost of travel, either by my car, taxi, or MTA bus/subway?
I think Sasha this may be a question for you.
Andrea, could you repeat the question for a second, please?
All right, hold on a second. So the question was, currently at schools that are providing the SERS, which is the special, I believe the special education recovery services in the afternoon after school, but still do not have busing services, and the parent is willing to pick up the child after the program ends, will the district or OPT reimburse my cost of travel either by my car, taxi, or MTA bus/subway?
The parent can certainly submit a reimbursement form. Andrea, if the parent wishes to get a MetroCard, we can provide the parent with a MetroCard. Please have the parent email us first thing in the morning.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I just want to remind the contact information for OPT Glenn's office is in the chat, and also the District 75 team contact information is in the chat. So if you do need it, please utilize it and contact and reach out to them. Thank you. We will go to our next co-facilitator, Joanne Jones, to discuss the current initiation of the GPS and VIA app.
Thank you, Amy. So these are the 2 questions that were given. Is there a date by which the GPS tracking will be made available on all buses? How will you prioritize what bus routes or population or other criterias that get to use the VIA app? The second question is, what District 75 schools will be launched for the VIA app?
So I can take that question. The first part of it is the date for rollout of the VIA application to all schools. That is to be determined. What's happening now is this spring, we're doing a pilot throughout the city. We did this on a very limited scale in a small district in Queens last spring. Incredibly successful project. Parents loved it, schools loved it. It went really well. So now we're looking to build off of that by going citywide, including District 75. The District 75 office has selected a group of schools that are participating. We had the kickoff meeting on this last week. I don't have the list of schools selected in front of me. District 75, I don't know if you do, but we can get you that information. And the VIA program is something we're really excited about. What it is the game changer in terms of transparency and visibility into what we're doing and accountability for the bus companies. And what it really boils down to is the question we all get, right? The number one question about busing is, where is the bus? We know it's supposed to be somewhere. We know it's not there many times, but we don't know where it actually is in real time. This changes that game, and it's really going to help us move into a new, more modern era and provide better service to students, schools, and families.
Glenn, did you want to jump in? I saw your camera come on.
Yeah, I was, but John hit every point, so I'm fine. Thank you.
Okay, great. We are going to,
I'm sorry, Amy, this is the Spanish interpreter, Marina.
Sure.
I put it on the chat a couple of times. I actually put it on the chat directly to you. I have the mom's phone number. She's not on the Zoom meeting, and she's just waiting for Mr. Kettler's information or for someone to take her info. If someone can please help me out with this.
Sure, did you direct a message to me?
Yes, to you, and I also put it for everyone on the chat.
Okay, no problem. We'll share it with Mr. Superintendent Lusant.
Yes,
And you
and
could-
Amy,
yeah.
we did also put additional information in the chat, so that
Okay,
can be used.
if someone can please direct it to me, because I'm not reading the chat, and the mom is not on the Zoom meeting. I am interpreting. So I don't know everyone's here. So if someone can direct it to me as Amy requested, please.
Okay, so the number we have in the chat is 212-802-1502.
I'm sorry, one more time. You were breaking up, sir.
212-802-1502.
Got it. Perfect. I will give it to her. Thank you.
Of course.
Thank you. We are going to our next co-facilitator, Lupe Hernandez, to express the expansion of the nonprofit bus company.
Thank you.
Hold on a second. So we're not doing electric buses? We skip it?
We're gonna come back to it, Andrea.
All right, I just wanted to make sure. Thanks.
I have two questions regarding the expansion of nonprofit busing companies. Parents that have children currently on routes that are serviced by Nice Bus have experienced, and we're just wondering if your office will be expanding this nonprofit school bus company to serve more routes and students.
Well, I'm happy to hear the sentiments about Nice Bus. So what has been intended is actually is being realized. So that's good news. As far as the expansion of Nice Bus, that is something that the city of New York will determine. There's contract negotiations and legal hurdles that have to be climbed in order to allow for that to happen. There has to be a willingness also from other bus companies that Nice Bus can absorb. So that's outside the purview of OPT. That's really falls within the purview of the city of New York.
Well, that leads to my next question. How can we parents and parent leaders support OPT in the efforts to better improve other busing companies to model the same experience that parents and families have been able to enjoy and what they're receiving from the Nice Bus?
Through meetings like these, which I'm happy to attend. Any the ideas that come forward, the concerns that everyone has, we bring those back, and it undergirds the things that we do to get the bus companies to be more in line with what we expect and what we're realizing for Nice Bus. So just the participation that all the families have in the meetings like this is what can happen. What my expectation is that there'll be a closer partnership with parents and families and schools and other advocacy groups. So there's more transparency in what we do and what happens here as far in the city of New York as far as transportation. So just participating in meetings like this and us taking back the sentiments, suggestions, ideas is how to best support what we're doing. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Lupe. I do want to just ask Glenn if you and your team can stay just a few more minutes. I know that we were trying to honor the time that you were offering us, but we just also want to honor those advanced questions that parents had gave us. So would you be able to stay on just a few more minutes?
Sure. This is important, so we'll be here.
Thank you so much. So we are going to go back to Ms. Andrea Daniels to touch on electric buses for her 2 questions.
So this is one of the 2 questions for electric buses. New York City, NYC City Council passed a bill last year to fully invest in electric school buses up to 2035 for the entire bus fleet in the city. How would you prioritize what bus companies or population or other criteria that gets to have electric school buses? That's the first question.
All right, let me answer that. First of all, the priority is for all the bus companies to have electric buses. As you mentioned, the mandate is for there be a total zero emission yellow school bus fleet by 2035. So that means all the bus companies. Currently, the process has started. We got an initial 3 buses that are currently in rotation that are servicing the students of New York right now. We're supposed to be getting additional 75 buses within the next 2 years. In 2027 will be the last year that school bus companies could purchase combustion engine buses. After that, everything that's purchased will have to be electric or zero emission. And also, as far as the 2035 date, New York State will be the first state that will have a full zero emission yellow bus transportation service. The next one is California in 2045. So we are ambitious, we are serious about it, and we're well on our way to do it. But the priority is all the bus companies will have zero emission buses.
Okay, thank you. So I'm gonna say the second question and last question for this topic. What are the specific plans to get bus company employees trained and familiar with electric school buses, from driving the vehicle to the necessary hookup to charging? And how, it's a 2-part question, and how will your office involve and engage families of students that will be riding these electric school buses on the routes?
Well, the training for that is going on right now. We have training procedures in place. We have a team of employees that are working with the bus companies that are receiving these buses. So the training is ongoing, and so that's not an issue for us. As far as the second part of the question, could you repeat that again? I'm sorry.
The second part of the question is, how will your office involve and engage families of students that will be riding these electric school buses on the routes?
All right, well, I will get back to everyone about that. I know we're working on the engagement and letting everybody know when these buses go into rotation. The specific messaging on that, I'll have to get back to everyone on.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And it's pretty exciting that we're going to have kind of the first 21st century vehicles on the road. We are going to our co-facilitator, Christy Angel, to share a little bit about bus routes again. Christy, are you there?
Yes, I am here. One moment. All right. Many parents have submitted their experiences regarding late or absent bus drivers and bus routes that do not have drivers assigned to them. What are the specific plans that OPT has developed to tackle these ongoing and persistent problems?
Pretty much as I said earlier, is to try to accelerate the recruitment of the bus companies to acquire more drivers. One of the things I wanted to mention as what we did at OPT, we allowed a certain class of driver that was in the past not eligible to drive all our yellow buses, but for a specific type of bus they were qualified for. We opened it up so we could have those particular drivers drive that particular bus, and that's our smaller vehicles, the one that has less than 8 or less drivers, and we got quite a number of those in the fleet, about 200. So that's something we did internally, that we opened up the opportunity for the bus companies to add 200 drivers that they would not be able to add in the past. But other than that, we react to those situations where we do have buses that are not being serviced by drivers, and we try to reroute. We try to take bus routes from vendors that are having more problems than others, but it's really a recruitment issue. And just to keep in mind that the bus companies are recruiting from a very shallow pool of drivers. There's a lot of different companies that are also recruiting from the same driver pool. That's the MTA, that's the Amazon, that's the trucking companies. So they're competing against a lot of different companies, but we're trying to provide them methods to where they can enhance the possibilities of getting drivers that want to be bus company drivers.
Thank you. I do have another question. Who approved doubling up routes? Who double checks these routes to ensure that children are not riding on the bus longer than they need to be?
The Department of Education approved the doubling up of routes. The effort there was to ensure, while we had a driver shortage, our effort was to make sure we get as many kids to school as possible, understanding that a number of these kids will get to school late. And we did understand that, but the priority was to make sure that we get as many kids to school as possible as the driver situation would lessen. And it's gotten better. It's not where it needs to be, but the priority of the Department of Education was to get as many kids to school as possible under these circumstances. And we do monitor the routes that are double. We require the bus companies to provide that information to us, and we pressure them to make, if the numbers are not changing, we focus on them to make sure that we go through their recruitment, and we make sure that we're seeing numbers increase in their ranks. So we've been working with them, and we require them to report on us. I believe it's twice a month on their driver recruitment and rosters.
Okay. So are they also making sure if they're in compliance with IEPs of children that need a shorter travel time that may be on these doubled up routes?
Yeah, that will be what we would do in our office. And we do everything to make sure that the mandates that are in the IEP are followed. So when we are notified that a child is out of compliance, then we react to that, and we do everything possible to make sure, withstanding that there is that driver issue, but we do react, and most times we are successful in rerouting so students will have their IEP mandates met.
Thank you.
Did you have another question, Chrissy?
Yes, I can ask one more. If the school and parents are complaining to OPT about a bus route or company, why don't they change the route or company after multiple case numbers while it's under investigation if it is?
Well, we do at times change the bus company if it's a habitual issue. So that does happen frequently. But if you have any routes that you guys maybe made aware of that has a habitual problem that there hasn't been any action taken, please use my contact information. Let me know what that specific route is, and certainly we'll look into it.
Absolutely, will do. Thank you. I believe that closes the section for the routes.
Yes, thank you so much, Christy. We are going to touch on a very important question, and it's on all of our minds. And I will pass it to the co-facilitator, Gwen Sachs to focus on and touch on accountability, transparency, and recommendations.
Good evening, everybody. I hope everybody is safe and well, and I'm glad that I got to do this accountability and transparency because it is of utmost importance, and I think it trumps, I'm sorry for using that term, I think it trumps all the other areas put together. The first question, there were 3 questions in this area. The first one is, what are specific ways that will OPT improve its bus company and driver accountability? The second one is, how can the parents support OPT in the efforts to better improving our student transportation system under this new administration? And thirdly, and without last, parents in schools have experienced violations to bus companies and drivers do nothing. The problem still exists over and over again. Why is your office not pursuing another disciplinary action or not have these bus companies on our roster and relieve them of their duties and get another bus company? That is because we have experience where, and I will just elaborate a little bit on that. We have where bus companies pay their fee and they don't care anymore. They have their money, they have their contract money, and they don't care. So they could afford to pay the money where we can't, the parents can't afford to pay for transportation or get a bus for their child. So that is one of the questions. What is removing any of these companies after their contract expiration to no longer to be in use? If you need me to repeat any of the questions, feel free.
Well, I'll take part of this, John. I know you want to chime in. I want to take part of it. One answer can kind of encapsulate a couple of questions you have. Nice Bus. That was one of the initiatives that the city wanted to embark on. We do realize that there are issues within the transportation model that we have now. That was part of the reason of developing this not-for-profit bus company. So therefore, that will be the model for the rest of the bus companies. And in the future, the hopes to expand to where that model will be the predominant model. And then, as someone mentioned earlier, they are already experiencing with that not-for-profit some very improved and some great outcomes. So that is one thing. And there's other things that are happening that as far as of how we deal with the bus companies outside the liquidated damages that we are doing. A lot of those I can't mention here for some reasons, but we are taking action on the bus companies, but in an accelerated way. Nice Bus is the first iteration of the things that we are doing, and that seems to be working, and that seems to be the model that we're going towards. John, you can go ahead.
Yeah, a couple other points on your first 2 questions. The first one, I believe, was accountability for bus companies. And to me, that a lot of that goes back to the VIA project I mentioned earlier, because what VIA is in terms of a bus company is accountability about the real-time location of their buses. We've all heard this before. You call, where's my bus? We know it's not here. It was supposed to be here at 7:15. It's still not here, and it's 7:45. And they say, oh, we'll be there in 10 minutes. I know we've all heard things like that. We hear it on our end too. This takes that away. That's accountability, that's real-time visibility. And to me, that changes the game. So that's one thing that we're really excited about, getting that project up and running, because that's it changes the whole dynamic of how the service works. And in terms of responsiveness to parents, I saw a comment earlier in the chat about kind of the platform and why is it a phone call? Why can't we do this another way? I fully agree with that. So what we're doing is we're looking to overhaul the call recording system, which is where we document our complaints and our phone calls. We're looking to do something that allows, not just for the phone call, but for an online complaint entry and more visibility into the resolution or progress towards a resolution that you can see as a parent. So you're not just, relying on the phone call and then kind of waiting to see what happens next and waiting to hear. This is going to be something that's more visible for you, and it allows you more efficient ways to get your complaint through without sitting and waiting for someone to pick up a phone. So those are the two things. And I think Glenn touched on the third one about the bus companies and the accountability in terms of contracts with Nice Bus. I think that that changes that dynamic as well.
Thank you. Amy?
Thank you so much. I know that it is coming. I took a few minutes of your time, but are you willing to take two of the hands that are up right now? They've been up for a while to answer some questions, and we're just gonna finish up with Rima, Maisie, and then Rima, and then we can close out.
So
Is
we
that
could take
okay?
these last. We could take these last two.
Thank you so much. Macy? Rima, did you want to go? I don't know if Macy was able to unmute.
Well, the other person is Latoya Massey, so I don't know, maybe Latoya, I don't know if you know that they're calling you. I want to give her the chance to speak.
Go ahead, Rima, and then maybe she can unmute herself afterwards.
Okay, that's fine. Hi, good evening, everyone. I had a different question. So I had a question about DOE inspectors and violations for matrons and drivers. Particularly, like I've heard, if their uniform, like for example, the little tie, and I'm sure I'm using the wrong name, like if they're missing the tie, that they get a fine. And that the fines sometimes that they receive are more than they're gonna make that day in their shift. Or for example, I know a lot of people in the chat are saying if they could receive a phone call, you know, if the bus is gonna be early or late, or if there's an issue. But I've also been told that they also get fined for using their phones. So I'm wondering, what would we be able to be provided with exactly what the infractions are that they could be fined with, and then maybe look at that list and see where there's space for flexibility? Because if they're paying a $250 fine and they're making $18 an hour and they're working 4 hours or 6 hours and they're not going to make the $250, they'd rather not work that day, and that creates a workforce issue. So I'm just wondering what are the rules around that, and how can we help our staff, you know, to come to work?
All right. First, we don't issue fines to drivers or attendants. We don't do that. We issue damages to bus companies when services are not provided as prescribed in their contract. We don't issue fines to drivers. If a driver is getting a fine for holding his phone on his phone while he's operating, that would be the NYPD or the City of New York. We don't issue fines to drivers. They're not our employees, they're the employees of the bus company.
Thank you. Latoya, are you able to unmute?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, good evening, everybody. I have several questions as I sit in this meeting.
Can you just keep it short if possible? I don't want to continue to hold anybody here in the space. We want to honor the time.
Okay.
Thank you.
Now, a lot of the answers that I'm hearing, it seems like nothing has been fixed since before COVID-19 with OPT. There are a lot of kids that, you know, the parents they ride the school bus, and kids are getting hit by the school bus driver, the para. They're being told certain things and they think that these kids are not going to relay it back to their parents. When parents make complaints, it just turns into another number that just goes in a docket and doesn't get looked at again. And another concern is this: school bus drivers who violate the road traffic regulations. There's nothing done about that. I see school buses making U-turns with kids on it on roads that they're not supposed to be making a U-turn on. I see school buses that are backing into one-way streets instead of going around a corner and following the traffic rules. Now, I haven't heard anything being done about this, what OPT's plan is. I'm also wondering if with the shortage of the paraprofessionals and the school bus drivers, has OPT considered hiring or making a contract with the Department of Education for the paras that already work in the schools with these children with disabilities to have them be one of the bus paras to make sure that these kids get home safe without having to go through that type of abuse or anything on the bus, because that's more of a trust for parents and that's more of security. And I think that everybody should be on the same page when it comes to the children riding the school bus. And the children riding the school bus with the max time of 1 hour and 30 minutes, to me, that's extremely long. And that's a lot for a person with disabilities. And my child used to take the bus. I had to stop allowing my kids from taking the bus and just pay the fare, take cabs, and just keep on moving because OPT was not reliable. School bus companies was not reliable, even when you make complaints to OPT and the bus company. The bus driver still has their job, the bus paraprofessionals still have their job, and nothing gets done, and then time just keeps going by. So these issues that I'm hearing from other parents and then the answers, it doesn't sound like it's concrete. And I want to know if you guys are going to come up with a deadline where you guys are going to come back to parents with an actual plan that's going to actually work, so that way parents can feel secure and trust in the fact that you guys have made a decision and have a structured plan for our kids when they're riding the school bus.
Thank you.
Oh, there was a lot to unpack in the question you asked. Only thing I will say is, since there was so much there, anything that anyone, yourself or anyone else, that can identify as a failure on the bus companies in any way, you need to get that to us and it will be resolved. To get it to me and it will be resolved. We do take seriously any issue. One of the issues you just brought up earlier about alleged hitting of students and stuff and things like that. We take things like that very seriously. Those, once we find out about it, those drivers and or attendants or anyone, any adult that's put in charge of children on a bus is removed immediately and will not return. So if we get these incidents to us, immediate action is taken. But as far as the service issues, you get anything that you have, you get to us, and my word is that those issues will be resolved, and they have been some improvements. I'm sorry that you may not have realized some of those, but we're trying very hard and we're striving to meet the expectations of all the families and parents in the city of New York. So if you got any issues, just please bring that to us and they will be resolved.
Thank
I have
you.
one more question.
I just want to reserve the time since we have interpreters in the room. So I apologize, Latoya, because we have interpreters in the room and they're only here for a certain amount of time. Apologize. So I want to turn it over to closing remarks. So is there anything you would like to say to close us out, Glenn and your team, for this evening?
Sure. Meetings like this is very important. You know, my team will be available to meet with the council when we can, and we want to partner with everyone, and we welcome suggestions. We welcome information about concerns and failures. That just helps us do the job and focus on what we need to do better. So I do appreciate the invite, and it was very productive. We learned a lot of stuff, and especially at the beginning with the PowerPoint, and believe me, I was taking notes and it resonated. So I appreciate the data. And again, I just want to say thank you for the invitation and opportunity to discuss these issues with you.
Thank you so much. I'm gonna turn it to you, Kettler and Shona. Would you like to give us some last remarks before the end of the night?
Yes. first of all, thank you, Amy, and other members of the council for having the good, vision to put this meeting together. As OPT agreed, we will need more of this meeting to make sure we remain in good communication with our parents. We know we are not a perfect system, and there is no perfect system out there. That's why your feedback, your recommendations are things that we will always take to heart. I will tell you where we were in September when we reopened school. We have improve a lot on that. We have hired a lot of paraprofessionals. We have put in place limo services to support parents. We have also increased the the number of staff in our team, like Shona just advised you. We know we have much more work to do, and we will continue as a district to partner with you, to collaborate with you. Our number is in the chat. We will always be available to take your question, your issues, and address them as expeditiously as possible. We do know that most of our families rely on busing services. We will continue to partner with OPT to make sure we continue to improve the system for every student that needs this service. And we are hoping that, VIA will be implemented as soon as possible. That will be another layer of improvement in the service. We are really making a lot of improvement, but we know that many of you may not be as satisfied as we would hope that you would be. We will continue to work with you all day, every day, to make sure we earn your trust, to make sure your children are transported safely and come to our schools to receive the education we have in place for them. I am happy now to pass it on to Shona, and if she wants to make some closing remark as well. I would also like to be just before that, we will continue to monitor the chart and share some of your questions back with OPT, and I'm sure they will follow up with you as soon as they can. Shona?
Thank you. Thank you, Superintendent. I would just like to echo what has been said by both Glenn and by Kettler, and thank particularly to everybody that was on the call today. Thank you, parents, for being on the call. And a huge thank you to our parent leaders who are tireless advocates, supports, and partners in this work. The district leadership team, the President's Council, and the Community Education Council are all absolutely stellar examples of the kind of partnership and advocacy that parents bring to the table. So I thank you for your time and your energy and that amazing slide presentation. I hope that you will share that with us and look forward to meeting with you soon.
Thank you, Kettler and Shona, and also glad for being here this evening and taking the time out of the day, especially you've been up early in the morning. I'm going to give Mr. Lawrence a word, and then we're also going to hand it over to one of our members of the committee to close us out. Mr. Lawrence, are you there?
Yes, thank you, Amy, and thank you to the committee. Thank everybody for coming out. Thank OPT, thank the superintendents, and thank all you parents for coming out and sharing your concerns, and know that our council is committed to making sure that people not just hear you, but they also react to you. And thanks to Amy and the committee for putting this together. Everybody have a good night and have a good holiday and enjoy your spring break. Thank you.
Thank you, Co-President, Mr. Lawrence. I'm gonna hand it over to one of our members and who is also a parent who's very dedicated. She does not have a child on a bus. Her son gets driven by a chauffeur. So I'm gonna turn it over to you, Ms. Sachs, to close us out.
My son's Uber, his personal Uber, but all these kids are mine. And I will fight for no matter what area it is, whether my son participates in it or not, they're all my children. I don't have to take them home and dress them or feed them, but they're all my children. And I appreciate everybody who came tonight. I appreciate the school leaders, the educators, the advocates, especially D75 council members, for everybody's hard work and dedication to these children. And we love these kids. That's why we do it, but we also care about each other. And that's what makes it even more, that's what makes it stronger. I want to thank OPT and I want to thank District 75 for coming. But I also want to say something. And I don't feel that I could have been representing the students or their families if I did not offer the following recommendations and voice my opinion about making situations better. Transparency and accountability. The reputation of OPT needs to be brought back because it is dwindling. Please tell us the truth. We have sat in meetings where information was dispensed and information which wasn't true. We were pacified as if we were intellectually inadequate to handle the truth. But the truth be told, that would have been more appreciated. You would have received more respect if we were told and you took responsibility for your errors. If you would say, we made a mistake, give us a chance to rectify the situation. If you would allow our input, since we are the ones who deal with the issues each day. If you would stop putting responsibilities to the school and not put off dealing with the families, there would be so much more respect and cooperation between the families and OPT. If there wasn't a revolving door, call 311, who refers you to OPT, who refers you back to 311, and sometimes you don't even get a complaint number and or a call back or a response. And pay attention to the complaints the school files daily, please. If you would not take advantage, if parents did not feel that they were being taken advantage of, either because they may not have a voice as strong as those people on this line, or they may not speak a language. Some parents feel very, very taken advantage of because they cannot express themselves. Then we may have progress to move forward. I truly, truly believe that. I truly believe that transparency and accountability will help solve all these other problems. And I just want to thank you all. I want you all to be safe. And I thank you for your advocacy, no matter what side of the coin you are on. And I truly, truly thank everybody. Amy?
I just want to thank everyone for participating tonight and asking your questions, concerns, and engaging in authentic dialogue for all of our parents and navigating a better, improved student transportation system. I know that we have some truly dedicated, committed educators and staff members and advocates that are not here tonight and here to support, but they are always in supporting our kids throughout, their educational life. So I just want to say, we appreciate them, all the hard work, and thank you so much, Glenn and your team here at OPT, Superintendent Kettler-Lassant and your team as well, in the efforts of making sure all of our children are safe and well on the school bus and off the school bus. Thank you everyone for participating this evening. And I want to honor all of those questions that were given to us. There was a lot of questions and we will also share them with you, Glenn and OPT and Superintendent. So everyone, enjoy the evening and the rest of the evening, and please stay safe and be well, and enjoy spring break. It's well deserved and that anybody's off. So everyone, thank you. And we will end the meeting.
Good evening.
Have a good evening, everyone.